Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over some news catalysts, earnings, as well as the Grayscale Trust, Bitcoin, and the stock markets. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so pretty much over the weekend there was like a whole bunch of FUD with the tariffs, with Mexico and China and Canada and all that jazz. Basically, a potential trade war was about to happen. The markets didn't like that too much, and as you guys can see right here, they gapped down and then went sideways, and then we recovered some, but not all of the move. So again, that's not great, but there is a reason why the market has partially recovered. Again, every time we get one of these oversold signals, it's pretty obvious we're about to go up. I mean, I can literally go back here throughout time, every single time it's happened, and you guys can see pretty much that's your local bottom right there. So perfect time to buy, and we did actually buy some this morning. Same thing on the Qs. You can see very similar back here, oversold, boom, absolute monster rip to the upside on this one. Same thing here, monster rip to the upside. Probably going to see a very similar thing here as well. Another monster rip to the upside. You can see these higher lows coming into. I'll just go over to the 15-minute chart here as well. So apparently CLSK is supposed to have earnings this week, and Riot is supposed to have earnings next week. Again, don't quote me on this. It could always change. But you guys can see both the S&P and the Qs have recovered most of the move. They were down like a very, very substantial amount from the, from the open right around here. The Qs by themselves were down almost about 3%. So the fact that they're only down 0.7% at the end of the close is actually quite bullish, in my opinion. So Bitcoin, we'll talk about the trust in a minute. Obviously, the trust got absolutely slammed. I mean, is what it is, guys. You know, the market's going to freak out. They're going to panic sell their positions. It's a great time to buy. When people do panic sell, that's not financial advice. You guys, of course, are grown adults. You can do what you want to with your own money. I'm just telling you. The old saying goes, buy when there is fear and blood in the streets. So what I will say about this is that it does appear we have another downtrend line. So if we can get a break at this downtrend line for Bitcoin, that would be very bullish. Now, as for the alt season, we need to see Bitcoin dominance break down, what needs to happen in order for this to take place. Basically, is the Fed funds rate needs to be cut. We need to see the Fed come out and say we're going to go from QT to QE. I think if that happens, even if the rate cuts are not immediate, the markets will start moving in accordance with the way the cycle should be going, which is that altcoins should be moving up right around this time. So we have this kind of real sell-off in Bitcoin dominance. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see how that's going to play out over time. We'll cover the miners more in depth in a separate video, but you guys can see according to TradingView. Again, this can always change. It appears to be completely random, but according to TradingView, they're supposed to have earnings this week on the 6th. So whether that is actually going to be on the 6th or not remains to be seen. But and then Riot on the 12th, supposedly. So in my opinion, I think because of the fact that the price of Bitcoin has been well over 100,000 for many, many, many months right now, even after the increased cost of mining after the Bitcoin halving, because whenever that happens, the cost of mining goes up for Bitcoin. Again, I don't know what that number is, but whatever the current price of Bitcoin is, it is the current value of Bitcoin. It should be much higher than the actual mining price. If this is correct, I mean, it just wouldn't make sense that it's not profitable with Bitcoin above 100,000. So I'm sure Satoshi Nakamoto figured all this stuff out when he invented it. He's obviously was a very smart dude, so I'm not too concerned about the profitability here. I think it'll be just fine, and the miners will do well. Okay, so I'm going to pop down to the Grayscale Trust real quick. We'll cover these, and then we'll go over the earnings and the news, the recent news as of lately. And again, I know a lot of you guys don't care about the news, but the price action just seems to be the same based on news catalysts. I mean, really, the truth is, the price is actually driven by market sentiment on a day-to-day basis. You guys might not be aware of that, but essentially what you're seeing on the charts is all psychological and emotional reactions from market participants on any given asset and or asset class. That's essentially what this is you're seeing behavioral patterns play out on these charts. It's known as market sentiment. It's the most important facet of trading and investing. So it's possible LTCN could hold this $9 level. You can see the last time it had a pretty big increase was from that area. A lot of wicks back here, so that's something to look at. Below that, about $8, and I'd still be looking at this 27 to 54 as a potential first stopping point before going even higher for about 500% gain. BCHG, so this is not exactly how I would want to see a head and shoulders pattern play out. I'd want to see it be more like, or inverse head and shoulders, more like this. So that's not great. I'm not going to sit here and say it's negated yet. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, it does appear maybe that around $3 could be a kind of a holding area for this thing before it eventually goes back up. And I mean, look, the reality is if you guys thought the price was attractive at $6, you're really going to think the price is attractive at $3.50. So, I mean, if we were sitting on cash right now and we weren't already heavily positioned in CLSK and some of these other altcoins, I'm telling you right now, we probably would pick some of this up because, again, the RSI is almost oversold on the weekly, which is kind of crazy to think that's even happening again. It is oversold on the daily. It is also oversold yet again on the 4 hourly time frame. So that's, that makes it pretty cheap. That's pretty down there in the fear spectrum. So you guys, of course, can do whatever you want to with that. I'd still be looking at 1250 to about 25 up here for potential targets. So maximum move, roughly about 700% gain if you can manage to squeeze it in there at $3. Nice little shooting star candle, not great. HZEN, the buy zone still between roughly about 340 and 410, 420, somewhere in there. Target, I'd say about $8 to about 1050 on this one. And keep in mind, I mean, yeah, okay, the price is not doing anything, but it could easily reverse and go up within just a matter of weeks, like a 2, 3, 4x. That could happen. So 218% gain here. ETCG holding that down trend line. So again, the buy area kind of between 9 to 13 here. Targets, I'd be looking at 18 to about 20. 120% gain, ETH. So there is a gap down. Usually these gaps get filled, which means it probably is going to likely go back up to 25. So you can see this gap back here got filled right here. That's a good example of what to expect. Gap down, and then eventually it went sideways, got filled again to the upside. So I will say at this point, you know what? I'm going to leave that bull flag pattern there. But if it does not go back within this channel within the week, I would say that's probably negated at this point. So the buy zone as of right now, probably somewhere between 18 to about 28 on this one. And I'd be looking at 72 as a potential target for about 300-ish%. So not bad. GBAT kind of holding these wick lows here. So maybe look for anywhere between 3 to about 4.25 to pick some up on the super cheap. I'd be looking at 32 as the target. So, I mean, 3 to 32, that's a 10x for about 1,000% gain. FILG, same thing. It seems to be wanting to hold these wick lows. So the wick lows go all the way down to 20. You could say anywhere between 20 to 30 at this point is a steal. The target would be the all-time highs at 400. So, you're potentially kicking down the door of a 15 to 20x at this point if it just gets back to all-time highs. So 1,800% gain. Of course, never invest more than you can afford to lose. And it's obviously not financial advice, but it's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket. I can't tell you guys what to do, but we would never put all of our money into one single asset. That's just a very stupid idea, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how good the markets look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say $9 is probably good for now. You could say maybe $6.70 if you're more bearish. 80 would be the target here for the all-time highs for about 770% gain. G-Link, so this one's in the middle of no man's land. I would say probably maybe wait till about 45 to pick some up. Again, you guys can do what you want to. 220 would be the target here, so roughly about a 4 or 5x for about 380%. GSOL is still holding strong above 20. I mean, the fact that it went down that much and it has gone sideways and it hasn't gone down more, in my opinion, is extremely bullish. I would still say 16 to about 22 could be a good area to pick some up. Targets between 80 to 115 still. These targets are not going to change, just so you all know, unless we break above them. It's for about a 645% gain here. So GXLM, same thing as before, roughly about 36 to 45 here for a pick-me-up. Targets 74 to about 96. It should hold that structure, 160% gain. I mean, the fact that the altcoin market got walloped as hard as it did over the weekend, and yet this thing still has not broken down, to me is actually extremely bullish. It shows some serious resilience on the chart of GXLM, so that's always a good sign. I would say probably $7.30 to about $10 for mana for pick-me-up, and then $70 for the targets at the all-time highs. Of course, if you don't want to sell exactly at the all-time highs, you want to scale out. If you think it's going higher, that's understandable. So 850% gain. Last but not least, Zcash. So nice big fat wick bounce right off of the bottom of that channel. That is obviously somebody who saw that and said, that looks pretty good. I mean, it's bounced there multiple times. I'll pick some up. Thank you very much at about 3.25. So congrats to whoever got it there. And 810 to 1050 here for the targets. I mean, you're looking at still a pretty massive gain of about a potential roughly 3x, 223% gain. Okay, so let's talk about the earnings real quick, and then we're going to close out. All right, so last week's earnings, I didn't really cover it too in depth, kind of just a slight bit, but we're going to cover it a little bit more today. So I'm going to go over the ones that I think likely are probably going to be the most relevant here. So we'll go over S-Bucks, and you guys are probably wondering, well, why Starbucks of all companies? Well, it's pretty simple, guys, because, I mean, everybody loves coffee, right? If people are out there not buying coffee in the economy, that would be a major red flag for me, because coffee is such a, well, I shouldn't say it's cheap. Starbucks is not cheap. I've been to Starbucks. But, you know, people can't even afford a $6 coffee or a $5 coffee. We got a problem, okay? But the fact that the earnings came in good and the stock has absolutely skyrocketed, I mean, kind of wish we had taken this trade, truthfully, is what it is. There's always another opportunity around the corner, but that's obviously a very good sign and measure of financial demand and consumerism, okay? So that's definitely a plus. Pretty sure we covered Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla before, but we'll go over it one more time. So MSFT, they're mostly flat. They had a beat on earnings. That's obviously a good sign. That means that businesses are still paying for their products, because you guys know Microsoft is mostly like Office, Microsoft Office Suite, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, stuff like that. So we'll go over Tesla. Tesla is a little bit more rate sensitive stock, so obviously the rates need to be cut for Tesla to make the most profit. Kind of a miss on earnings here, but I'm not too worried about that. I mean, you know, Elon is up in there in the White House with Trump, working with Trump and the Republicans and all that. So that's obviously a benefit to his companies, and it's just it's a matter of time before the Fed eventually does get rates. They're not going to be able to pull this crap forever. I'm going to tell you that right now. And on top of that, Tesla is no longer just a car company. They are becoming a robotics company, a space exploration. Well, technically that's SpaceX, but, you know, they're doing a lot of different stuff. Elon is doing a lot of different stuff. So not too concerned about that. They have a lot of diversity. Very similar to Amazon. Probably not quite at the scale of Amazon, but definitely getting there for sure. Okay, so Meta obviously had a beat, nice big rip on earnings. I think that's all good. So big tech looks good as of right now. So we'll cover, let's see what else. We'll cover MasterCard and Visa. And again, why is MasterCard and Visa such a big deal? This is credit card companies. As you guys know, people love to go spend money on stuff they can't afford to impress people they don't like. How do they usually do it? They do it with loans and credit cards, which makes these credit card companies a fortune. So if we see a beat on earnings on this, that's extremely bullish for both investors and for the economy, because that means people are spending money out of their eyeballs that they don't have to buy stuff they don't need, which is a very strong, very, very strong sentiment indicator of the expansion of consumerism. Basically, people are spending money. That's good for the economy. That's good for the markets. That's exactly what we want, right? Same thing with Visa, very similar story. So that's all good. Okay, so I'm going to cover. Not really too concerned about Shell. I mean, I believe they're a Canadian company. I'm more concerned about the U.S. right now. So we'll take a look at the oil companies. So Exxon and Chevron, these are obviously a very big deal. Why is that? Because the energy sector is a major component of CPI. If oil and energy is inflationary, that's not good for CPI. So we got a mixed reading here. So that's kind of basically a non-starter. It didn't really go up, didn't really go down. Obviously, we want these companies to make money, but we don't want it to be so stupidly profitable that it's creating more inflation. At least not right now. Okay. And one way to bring the inflation down on the oil industry is pretty simple: to increase fracking, create more oil producing jobs where more people can work in the oil industry, to pump more oil as a barrel per day, or they call it BPD, I think it is, and for OPEC to come out and say, okay, yeah, we're going to start pumping more oil as well. That would obviously create the deflationary effect for the oil industry, which oil is used in a lot of things. Okay, the eyeglasses that you wear to see out of every day, those have oil in it. You have oil for your cars, the planes that we fly on, the trains that we ride on. I believe that there are some things, even electric vehicles, that are also repurposed from natural fuel sources like oil and gas. Again, I don't want to get too deep into that, but just wanted to throw that out there. Oil is in a lot more of the economy than you guys can imagine. So again, a mixed result on ExxonMobil. So kind of a non-starter here. I'm not too worried about the oil companies. I just don't want to see like something crazy where they have like 100 or 200% beat on earnings. That would be a little bit scary in my opinion, but we have not seen that. So as for today, we got Palantir today, so that'll be something to watch after hours. If you guys get the chance to do that, I will not have the chance to do that. Wednesday we have, oops, hold on, this is the wrong week. My bad, y'all. So yeah, anyways, so Tuesday we have, or tomorrow in this case, we have Google. Wednesday, Qualcomm, so you got your semis there. And Thursday, Amazon, and yeah, basically just Amazon, I guess. At this point, those are the only companies I'm really worried about. So I'd say earnings looks pretty good at this point. I'm not too worried about consumerism and economic demand. So let's talk about the actual news catalyst. So what happened in the markets where they tanked and then they recovered pretty much all of the losses? So the gist of it is Mexico and Canada came out and said, well, basically Trump was like, yeah, Canada and Mexico was like, we're not going to comply. Trump came out and said, okay, fine, I'm going to slap you with a 25% tariff. And then Mexico and Canada were like, okay, fine, screw you. We're going to also slap you with a tariff, and thus begins a trade war. The problem with that is if Trump is putting tariffs, if these other countries need to do business with the United States more than the United States needs to do business with them, the United States is in control because they have the greatest economic power, which means that the tariffs that foreign countries place on the U.S. will not be as bad as the ones that the U.S. place on them. So what would happen is the U.S. would ultimately win the trade war regardless. Mexico obviously came out. They know that. They conceded based on the title. You can see that here. But yeah, so they would, the U.S. would basically end up winning that trade war. So it saved us all a bunch of trouble and pain as a result of them being willing to comply. But the other facet to this is if, regardless of how the outcome, regardless of in which way it's ultimately accomplished, when Trump gets what he wants ultimately, and there is tariffs slapped on these other countries, a lot of these businesses that moved out of the US to go overseas to do business because of regulation in the United States, which again, deregulation by the Trump administration, obviously very bullish for business here. Another incentive for businesses to want to come back to the US to do business. But when they realize that doing business overseas is going to cost them more money as a result of the US slapping tariffs on these countries that they're doing business in, that's going to be yet another layer of incentivizing for them to come back to the US to do business. And if they're creating all of their products here in the US, then the United States becomes less and less and less reliant over time on these other countries for imports, which means essentially that these foreign countries would ultimately become more and more reliant on the US. Okay. That's pretty much the picture that I'm getting here. So you can see it here. It says President Donald Trump said Monday he agreed to immediately pause tariffs on Mexico for a month after a very friendly conversation with the country's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is I think how you say that. It says, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border, separating Mexico and the United States. Trump wrote on Truth Social, these soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. So basically, the gist of what is going on here is so long as Mexico is willing to supplement the amount of soldiers to prevent the inflow of drugs and illegal immigration, then Trump is willing to put a temporary halt on the tariffs against Mexico, which ultimately has led to the market starting to move back up, as you can see here. You guys think that I do not understand macroeconomics. I understand them much more than you can imagine. And again, I'm not bragging about this. I just am trying to paint a picture for you guys so you can understand where this is all going, okay? So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Peace.